Oh, we're going live. All right, everybody. We're live, my friends, with the fourth episode of the Devy WRs. I'm your host, Eric, at EK Baller on Twitter. I've got two great guys here with me again today. My maybe co-host or maybe recurring guests, Kyle and Jake. Kyle, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kyle. You can find me on Twitter at KL_fantasy. Otherwise, you can find me with the Undroppables at theundroppables.com. My Devy rankings are there, as well as most of my writing. And that's about it.
Jake?
I'm at Devy Jake. You can also find me at the Undroppables. Not gonna lie, I haven't put out a whole lot of content recently, but if I do, that's where it will be.
Right on. And always glad to have you guys with me here on this show. All right, let's kick it off. What was good this weekend, boys? What did you like? What was bad? I know one of you had a lot of thoughts on the dreadful state of this slate.
Yeah, the early games this week were real clunkers. Only two quarterbacks out of 10 threw for over 200 yards. They were all either blowouts or just sloppy, disgusting games, and it did not bode well for what I thought was coming this weekend, but I was pleasantly surprised as there was a number of good games.
What was your favorite game, Jake?
I enjoyed the Oklahoma State-Texas game. I thought Texas would actually handle them pretty easily. I don't know if how much you guys want to attribute wind to Quinn Ewers' terrible game, but 19 for 49 with 3 picks is not going to cut it. Gotta move him down the rankings after a game like that, I think. Again, you see how special Bijan Robinson is. 1 catch, 41-yard touchdown. Hit the receiving yards over on his only reception. Just special guy. Love watching him play. Also, credit to Spencer Sanders as well. Dude's a gamer. I don't know if he has much of a pro career, but I love him as a college quarterback, and he's a fighter.
Man, I'm wishing we got that deal done and born and raised before this weekend.
Yeah, man, we just lost a lot of value there.
Yeah, it's a hit. How about you, Kyle? What was good this weekend?
Yeah, it was right after we were just anointing Quinn Ewers in the last week of this show. Yeah. I didn't get to watch a ton. I was at a wedding yesterday, but I was watching the LSU Ole Miss game on my phone. That one was tough for Kiffin in the second half. That offense just completely sputtered, couldn't score at all in the final 2 quarters. LSU took over the game. And then Syracuse-Clemson was really fun as well. I thought Syracuse could maybe make it happen, and then the same kind of thing happened to them where they just fell apart. So,
yeah, they had them on the run at the beginning of the game, though, right?
Yeah, 21-10 at halftime, but 17-0
going
in
into the fourth
quarter.
Yeah, brutal.
So,
that was brutal.
All right. Did this change your opinion of Jaden Daniels at all?
For me, it has a little bit. I think he's playing the best football of his life these last 2 weeks. Got 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. 6 of those touchdowns are coming on the ground. I mean, he's still got a slight frame, and that hasn't changed. He hasn't suddenly put on a ton of weight the last couple of weeks, but size concerns remain. But he's impressed me, and if he can keep it going, I think he's making some noise at least.
Yeah, potential late round pick for you if he continues to improve.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a first rounder or anything like that. But yeah, I could see him sneaking into day 2 if he continues playing strong. Someone will take him as a developmental quarterback in the 3rd round, I think. Kyle, you've been shaking your head no this whole time. What's your beef with Jaden Daniels?
I think this is just what Jaden Daniels does. I mean, sometimes he looks like the best quarterback to ever play in college football, and then the next week he looks like he doesn't even know what a football is. So don't believe it. that it's going to be like this every week, so not really sold on him at all. I mean, he was fantastic, 2 years ago at Arizona State, and then last year just
It was pretty awful.
Yeah. So who knows? I don't think there's a truth there that's good for him necessarily.
So I saw that Klubnik got some playing time, but I looked at the box score and it seems like he didn't do too much. Did you get to see anything? Tells you any more about him than we already knew?
I mean, we know that they're not afraid to bench DJU now because
who
might have another
starts
chance
next
to
week?
play. DJ. I mean, Klubnik threw 4 passes.
Yeah, Will Shipley saved him.
That's just fantastic. That was incredible.
I love Shipley, man. Give him the rock. I don't understand why, even in the Devy, it's not like people are low on him, but like for me, he's been, the RB2 in that class easily. And I think there's arguments for him to be the RB1. But I don't know. I think I'm on a little bit of an island on that one.
Yeah, I can't sanction moving him ahead of Travion, but I do love Will Shipley. Definite top 3, most likely top 2 in the class for sure.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch as much as I would like. I spent a lot of time cutting up film. So the one game I did watch kind of later in the slate was South Carolina and A&M. And I think Marshawn Lloyd is a beast. I think he's the guy that we thought he was as a recruit now. It just took him a little while to get there. And he's changing that team for sure. And I don't know if the win is more about South Carolina or about A&M, but it's nice to see Wegman take the field a little bit too, although, he didn't do too much. But did you guys catch that one?
I saw a good chunk of the game. I did not see him get in there at the end. Marshawn Lloyd's been making me look stupid all season long. I was a big detractor of his after his season last year. He was over a year removed from his ACL tear. I thought he should have been better last year. Playing his competition were an undrafted free agent and a 6th round guy. But he's been killing it this year. He's got averaging 5.7 on the ground. He's already got over 500 yards rushing. He's doing it, against SEC opponents. He's, banished Christian Beal-Smith to the shadow realm as far as, touches in that backfield go. He's looked great.
Yeah. I don't think Beal-Smith is very good, but
I like CBS. I thought coming in that CBS was going to have a better year than Marshawn Lloyd. I've been very wrong about that.
Where did he come from? Wake?
Wake. Yeah, he was Wake.
Okay, guys. Who wants to lead it off with your star of the week?
We touched on mine. Shipley, he saved Clemson's behind there with the 50-yard touchdown. He had a career high in rushing. Just a fabulous game all around, 2 touchdowns. He was my star of the week. He's the reason that Clemson now has the record for most ACC home wins in a row, much to my Seminole chagrin.
At least you're honest with yourself. Yeah, we kind of talked about your guy a little bit too, Kyle, but you want to elaborate on that as well?
I got a second one on there. I'll take instead. Top 10 showdown in the Pac-12 over there, UCLA versus Oregon, and surprisingly, it was Bo Nix who showed up. 22 for 28, 283 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Pretty impressive for a guy who's had an up and down career over at Auburn. So he's been good at Oregon. Tough eval now that he's seems to be putting it together.
Another year, who knows what they're going to think about him,
Yeah.
Does he still have another year of eligibility after this?
COVID, right? I think this is his 4th year.
That makes sense, I think. I think he's a tough eval. I think he's looked great. And you see him and Malik Willis. I saw, I think it was Chris K who tweeted out today that, Willis and Nix have flourished outside of Auburn, and it just shows how bad that coaching staff really must have been.
Yeah, definite dumpster fire there. And you know what? I think now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I think it is the 5th year for Bo. So I
No,
don't know, but
I
they
think
get
it's
the
5.
graduate year too, right?
Yeah, I think he can play 6 or has 5 to play 6 with the COVID, but I don't know where he would stand on that.
Yeah, I think he'll get one more. But I mean, great storyline. Great for Bo, right? We'd all kind of left him for dead in the Devy community, and he seems to be playing some legitimately good football out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, it went from 61% completion percentage last year to 71 now. So big jump.
That's awesome.
Completing passes. So
he's got some talent around him. He's got an offensive line. That's probably a lot of it. A lot of these guys are night and day when you put some protection in front of them. And, I don't think we're talking. Well, people are starting to talk enough about Troy Franklin now just in the past couple of weeks. But he's, maybe as talented as any guy in the league right now, just starting to shine after, again, a couple of rough years in Oregon for him. So I didn't have
this is only his 2nd year, I think, Franklin, and he's flashed a little bit last year, and he's been fantastic this year. I love Troy Franklin. I was able to get him in like the 20th round of the Sickos draft, where we removed the top 200 ADP and did a best ball draft with that, and no one was touching Troy Franklin. He's been a tremendous value from where he was going in CFF drafts this year.
Yeah, I think that's a rule, if I'm being honest. The highly recruited, underperforming freshman as a sophomore tends to be a great value in drafts. If it's not like the overall one in his position, you get those guys so late, and frequently they work out, at least for college, if not for the NFL. So my guys this week, my dude Parker Washington. I love Parker. I was super high on Parker coming into the season. I was really hoping for dominant target share, alpha performance from him. We haven't quite gotten that so far, but we got it this week. Not a huge week, but 7 for 70 and 1 in a Penn State offense that is, I guess, what we've come to expect of a Sean Clifford-led squad. I just like seeing some signs of life. I'm still high on him for the NFL draft, although he's probably looking like a day 3 guy unless he blows up the Senior Bowl. And then my other guy, and I have a woeful story that I'll tell later to go along with this one. Luke McCaffrey, the little McCaffrey brother, 10 catches, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, and another 31 yards and a 4th touchdown on the ground for something like 51 points in a PPR league. I don't know. I was kind of high on him when he first broke out, and then he's done nothing for 3 or 4 weeks. But, this is the potential. The kid's a hyper athlete. I don't know if he's got draft prospects at this point. Maybe. I mean, he's like a 4th-year player, and this is the first time he's done anything. What do you guys think? You guys got anything on Washington or McCaffrey?
Washington's been a big disappointment. I was big on him after his freshman year. He last year hasn't done much. They've bought in, a good amount of competition this year, and he hasn't really separated himself. And the Penn State offense has been, okay, I guess, but nothing, to write home about. I'm sorry, EK. I'm disappointed in you putting Parker Washington as your stud of the week. A 70-yard performance. Come on.
Just a sign of life, man.
As for McCaffrey, I don't know. Maybe he'll play himself into getting a late round selection. I think he has a good chance of catching on somewhere as an undrafted free agent, based on name alone. But he's a fun player, and I definitely root for him. And yeah, owning him the last few weeks has not been fun. But best ball leagues, having him there because those blowups are coming is the way to do it.
Future Niners practice squatter right there.
Right.
Future Niners RB1 after CMC gets signed somewhere else.
Seems like a Belichick guy. He's going to go to the Pats.
Like Gunner.
Yeah. Right.
But
all right, guys.
That Penn State offense though is disgusting. Like
bad,
in terms of passing, there's nobody who's broken out, and I liked at least 3 of those guys. So like,
yeah. I mean, do you think it gets better with Allar next year, or I don't know?
I mean, I think
Has
it
to,
does,
right?
but all the wide receivers are going to be gone. Like Tinsley and
Yeah.
Washington are probably both gone.
I mean, they got the freshman that's pretty good. Not that he's done anything, and then Lambert was a good
Smith.
recruit. I don't know if he's good. I haven't studied him, but we shall see.
They have Singleton. Singleton's a
They do
star.
have
Singleton,
That's about
30
it.
carries a game. All right, guys. Main event this week, we are going to present our top 25 Devy wide receivers as by the consensus rankings of the Devy Dose crew, aka Jake, Kyle, and myself. I'll put a little graphic out after the show and tag it in the comments and on Twitter. Well, let's start. We'll take it from the top. And I got to say, we had tiers that we agreed on, but we certainly didn't have any consensus in where to put specific players, which I don't know if that's endemic to doing this exercise or if that's just this year, but a little bit all over the map. Our consensus number one was the number 4 for one of us and the number 2 for one of us, and that is Jordan Addison. So, Kyle, you were low on him relative to Jake and I. Why? Why no love for Addison?
Well, actually, our consensus number 1 was Jaxon Smith-Njigba, because Jake and I both had him 1.
Oh, I didn't scroll up.
Stop the steal, Eric.
All right. Well, let's talk about JSN first. I guess I'm the outlier on him, and I guess I'm probably too quick to slide guys around, and I know that's more of a fault of mine as a dynasty and Devy player, but sometimes an advantage, right? And quick to react, so it bites both ways. And I still love JSN. I mean, he put up a record breaking performance last year in the bowl game. I don't think he's not talented. I just think even when he wasn't hurt this year, he got outshined a little bit by the other guys there. And yeah, you can say they're just as talented as him, but for me, I'm putting Addison ahead of him because Addison has been a consistent performer in a variety of different circumstances. Yeah, I mean, 2 NFL quarterbacks probably throwing him the ball, but I'm not trading away Jaxon. I'm not, selling low on him. I just have other guys that I have bumped ahead of him just a hair at this point. What do you guys think?
I think that's fair. I just, I get, especially in Devy, being quicker to move people around, but I don't get, dinging him for, missing time due to injury. It's not like we've seen him on the field all year, and like, Kayshon, who hasn't produced. Jaxon Smith's been, on the sidelines the majority of the season. He didn't really have a strong showing in his first game back yesterday, but c'est la vie. We'll see how it goes next week, and if it's more of the same, then yeah, maybe I can sanction the move down. But for now, he's holding pat at number 1 for me.
Yeah, but also he did play 2 games before he got hurt, and combined for a total of 30. Yeah, for 38 yards between the 2 games. You think were they going away from him because they didn't need him? But I don't know. I mean, it's not like he was hurt in the preseason, was he?
I can go back further though. This man outperformed 2 first-round picks last year as a true sophomore. 1,600 yards compared to Garrett Wilson's 1,000. I mean, he was fantastic last season. And to do that with those 2 competing for targets and touches, that's hard to beat as a prospect profile.
Yeah, not to split hairs, but 300 of those yards are in the bowl game after those 2 weren't playing. But yeah, the point still stands, and yeah, shouldn't be dismissed lightly. I agree. Addison, guys, you gotta move on to Addison here, and you guys don't like him as much as me. So what's up?
I do like Addison. I just like JSN for the reasons Kyle said more. But I'm in on Addison. I've got him at number 2. I think he will test well. He's fun to watch. He's productive. He's in a talented wide receiver room and is clearly the best one there. I'm wheels up on Addison for me. Kyle, I'm interested to hear why he's at 4 for you.
I feel like we just need to not talk about this like the way we are. I mean, number 4 is no slight whatsoever. I love Jordan Addison.
You hate Jordan Addison. Wow. You guys are hearing this, right?
The top 6 guys, I think, are all in their own tier. And we're splitting hairs at this point. The few hairs that Addison has that I split are his size. Smaller guy. Might not be successful, outside the slot in the NFL, which can be a ding. Meanwhile, guys like, Marvin Harrison and Kayshon Boutte are just massive human beings who are just athletic freaks. So that's really the ding I have on him. But I love watching Jordan Addison play. I mean, nothing like it.
That's fair. It's fair on the higher point as well. And I think we're all in agreement, right? Those first 6 guys are all first round NFL draft picks for the most part, right? Harrison, I mean, we all love Harrison, right? Dominant outside receiver, immediately stepped in and outperformed other dominant receivers. You guys got anything new to add to the conversation other than just adulation for Mr. Harrison?
I heard his dad was pretty good.
I heard the quarterback his dad played with was pretty good too. He went to a pretty good school too, if I remember
right. Right in the high from last week, still, huh, Kyle?
He scored 65 points this week. I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, and like in the
Hyatt might be for real. And I got to do a little more work on the film on him too. And he's a slot guy, but either whoever Alabama had on him was very bad, or he is really good. I mean,
and that's usually not true about players on the Alabama defense. So
the guy just looked lost. Hyatt, he wasn't reacting quickly enough to keep up with Hyatt. Just seemed constantly bewildered by the acceleration. The reason he scored 6 touchdowns in that game. All right, guys. So QJ, now I have risen a lot on Johnson. I wasn't super high on him coming into the season. I wasn't off of him either. I just liked JSN, Boutte, and so on better. And a lot for the same reasons that we've had questions about him this year, and certainly just the consistency. And now I think that offense is better than it has been since he's been there. And, still the up and down season, but those dominant performances are so dominant that I don't see him not working out at the next level. You guys got anything to add on Johnson?
Great size, athletic freak. He's gonna test well. He's putting it together. His last week was okay. 4 catches, I think 70 yards and touchdown. But the 2 weeks prior to that were absolutely absurd. I love QJ. I don't have him at number 2, but he's right there. It wouldn't shock me if he was the first. It would shock me if he was the first wide receiver drafted this year, but it wouldn't shock me if he was, a first round selection.
It's absolutely wild that a guy that's that size and that good at the catch point can also be that good with the ball in his hands. Like those 2 skills. Usually if you're that good at one, that's enough to get you in the NFL and to get you playing. But if you're that good at both of them, that is something to watch and something to that's definitely going to set him apart.
Yeah, love him. And then some draft nicks have been ranking him as the top receiver in this class as well. Although I think a lot of that's clickbait this time of the year. We'll find out more as we get a little bit closer to the draft, but some serious scouts think about him. And this is where we start to go right a little bit. right and left. So those were our top 4, which we're all pretty lockstep on. And then at number 5, we had a tie between Xavier Worthy of Texas and Kayshon Boutte, occasionally of LSU. Who do you guys want to talk about first?
Is it Boutte? I've heard Booty from the announcers, and I usually just defer to what the announcers say, but I've heard everyone on Twitter saying it Boutte, and I have no idea how the hell you actually say his name.
I could be completely ignorant. Just when you see something written like that, it's Boutte, but yeah, Booty.
I do not know. I would be interested to find out. But sorry, Kayshon, in advance if we're butchering your name. But if not, we'll stick with Boutte for this. Boutte has been a disappointment for me. I guess Worthy's been a little bit of a disappointment so far this season, but to me, that's been somewhat on Ewers. He hasn't really been looking for Worthy as much. I think that as an NFL profile, Boutte probably is more what the NFL is looking for. He's got a lot better size than Worthy. But Worthy's freshman season was like Julio Jones level. And, that he's ticked a lot of boxes for me production wise. And I love Xavier Worthy. I have him at number 3.
I have no qualms with Boutte's beginning of the season. I mean, it's been tough to watch, sure, and it's definitely not fun if you have him in college fantasy or anything. But I mean, from what I've read, he's just had some issues off the field that he's had to take care of. I mean, he had a kid like basically when the season started, so that's always a life-changing experience for people. So I still believe in the talent. I know that it's still there. I think he's just having some trouble off the field that's been bleeding onto his performance. So I still have faith in Boutte.
I hear the same thing, but I have a real negative slant on that. I mean, I'm a lot of our friends in the community are Louisiana people, and man, the word on the street locally is that he's kind of been, a negative influence on the team this year, like a real disruption. Whether it's, me stuff or what, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any primary sources on it, but that's the rumor. And I mean, I think that you kind of got to ding him for the attitude a little bit, right? I mean, in a way, you feel like he would have been better just sitting the season out, probably would have still got draft capital. And I've been a fan of what we've seen on tape from Worthy. He hasn't had the production we'd love to see from someone we're ranking this highly, but certainly when we've broken the film down, he fits that profile of the shifty, always open wide receiver, and his ball skills are outstanding as well. For a slimmer guy catching those contested passes, I think he's doing real well. Jake, you obviously had more to say on Boutte.
No, you summed it up well. Since Brian Kelly has gotten there, it seemed like there's some sort of rift between him, with the coach and the player. I'm not sure what's smoke or what's nothing or, what's real, but his production on the field, I mean, yeah, he has had a kid, but he has only hit 50 yards once all season. He's got 1 touchdown. I don't know. It's been disappointing. And it's not like the whole offense has been suffering. James Daniels has over 600 yards last 2 weeks, although I guess his best game was 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, he just had 101 2 weeks ago, didn't he?
Yeah, 115 versus Florida.
Yeah, so I thought the path was going to be trending up, and then I think in this game this weekend he had like 3 for 27 or something in the first quarter and a half, and then got dinged up, and then didn't have another reception. So
yeah, ended with 4 for 43 yesterday.
I have a hard time ranking these guys this highly when they've been outperformed this season by another player on their team about whom we do not have that high of an opinion, right? Like, I think we all like Malik Neighbors, but no one's calling him an elite wide receiver yet. Yeah, there's more going on to that than the individual players' performances, but just raises the question for me, like why is Neighbors producing and Boutte isn't,
Yeah, it's like the JSN thing, I guess. He had such a good freshman season, end of the freshman season, and was good last year. Or did he get hurt last year? But either way, he's produced and presumably hasn't forgotten how to play football. Although the production hasn't been there, you like to think it's lurking in there somewhere, and an explosion's waiting to happen.
So moving on at our consensus, so like number 8, we have freshman Luther Burden from Missouri. Who wants to talk about Burden?
Well, let's not skip Josh Downs here.
Oh, yeah.
I actually reading this I love Josh Downs. Oh my gosh. I watched I watched a ton of Sam Howell tape. Back when he was their quarterback, and every time I came back to that UNC tape, it was like, man, Josh Downs is a freaking baller. Did the same thing with Drake May, last week, and every time I watched it, I was like, Josh Downs is a freaking baller. Dude is just so electric with the ball in his hands, so quick off the line, just a really impressive athlete to watch. Similarly to like Addison and Worthy, I mean, this is the guy where his dings are his size. I mean, he's a smaller wide receiver. And, I'd love to say we've seen that succeed in the NFL, but not really. I mean, you got Tyreek Hill and Elijah Moore at 5'10" are like the only success stories, and Elijah Moore not doing it this season. So, but yeah, I mean, these smaller guys we're talking about now, they're super quick too, so maybe they have a chance.
Jake Downs,
he's been impressive. I agree. He's had the benefit of Sam Howell and now Drake May at quarterback, so he hasn't been hurting as far as having quality passers, but he's made the most of it and looks great.
Yeah, I think he jumps out on film. It's the engine of that offense when he's on the field. I think he's going to be a successful NFL player. Honestly, I have fewer questions about him at the next level than I do some of the guys above him, but you wonder if the ceiling's a little lower. But nonetheless, so sorry, I jumped the gun before, jumped the shark a little bit here, but Luther Burden, I'll take the lead on this. We're comping him to Jamar Chase before the season because of his athleticism and outstanding production in high school. And I think we got to see a little bit of that this past week, which was pretty cool. He is underwhelmed thus so far, but it was clear on film this weekend that that's not for a lack of talent. You guys want to talk about Burden at all?
It was fun seeing the first half of the game where they, actually tried to get him the ball. It was electric as expected, and delivered on all that incoming freshman hype. But then he just disappeared from the game plan in the second half. So pretty disappointing there by Mizzou.
I love watching Burden on the field, but I'd love to watch him on a different home field. That Missouri offense just isn't cutting it. I mean, love Drinkwitz to death. I mean, loved him at App State, but yikes. You got to get your best players the ball, and it's pretty obvious that he's one of the best players on the team, if not the best. Obviously, Dominic Lovett has been solid, but like Burden's potential and athleticism seem like they're so untapped there in Missouri. So, yeah.
I think he'll have better days ahead, whether they're in Missouri or somewhere else. We will see. All right. I don't think we need to talk about every player on the rest of the list, but let's hit highlights. And I do want to talk about Egbuka a little bit. I'm very high on him. Again, it's kind of the same reason you guys are so high on JSN, or the reasons you talked about. He's come on the field with incredibly talented players around him and dominated and taken target share from other guys. Again, even in those first 2 games JSN played, and Egbuka produced, JSN didn't. So I'm substantially higher on him than the two of you. So what are the fears about Egbuka here?
For me, it's more just me being a laggard and being slow to adjust. I know I said earlier that I condone reacting to new information quickly in the Devy sphere, but I have not done so with Egbuka, and you bring up a lot of valid points, and he should almost certainly be higher in my rankings than where I have him. I have him at 13th, the lowest of the three of us. But he had all the pedigree coming in, and yeah, he's getting on the field and looked good so far this year. He's been a top 20, I think, maybe top 25 wide receiver in CFF so far this season to boot. So he's definitely been productive and been a lot of fun to own in C2C leagues.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I'm also a little behind. I might be a little behind the times. I definitely haven't had a chance to watch a ton of Ohio State from this season. So it's on my to-do list, but haven't gotten there yet. So he could move up further, but also it's just tough to, crack that top list for me, the top tier or two. He'd have to jump, Luther Burden or Josh Downs first. And still love Luther Burden. I still think he deserved to be the wide receiver one in this class. So yeah, it's not that I don't like him or anything. It's just tough to pass some of these other guys up.
Yeah, understood. Jake, you're the high man on Stewart. You got any comments on him?
He's been electric. He's been breaking the Jimbo Fisher freshmen don't play rule. Been productive, highly rated coming in. I think was he the number one? It was either him or Burden. Were the 247. I think the composite had Stewart at number one, but it might have been Burden. Either way, they were both way up there. And he's delivered so far. So I haven't seen any reason to move him down and keep him right around where I had him in the preseason. Yeah.
Love it. He was my number one as well, and he has done nothing to disabuse me of that notion to date. McMillan and Darian, I feel like we've talked a lot about the past few weeks on the show, both of them, and it seems like we're kind of honestly all about the same on that, except Kyle, did you not rank Tet McMillan, or did I miss it?
I did not. You asked for top 25. He fell in at 26.
Okay, all right. So drag the ranking down now too, but fair enough. Antonio Williams, I don't think we've talked about at all on this show so far, and I like him a lot. You guys have any strong opinions on him so far?
I mean, he's been super impressive right off the bat. Seems to be eclipsing pretty much everybody else in that wide receiver room already as a freshman. I think he'll continue to have good seasons. Hopefully, Cade Klubnik's career goes a little better than DJU's did for Antonio Williams' sake, and also Adam Randall's sake once he gets healthy. So, yeah, loved Antonio Williams coming into the season, and then once Randall's injury happened, had to move Antonio Williams up because you knew the production was going to probably come too as a freshman, which is really important.
I feel like Williams doesn't even really fight Randall for target share, though, right? Randall keeps Ngata off the field, right? Or the other Collins,
Well, yeah, it's tough to know, though, considering Randall hasn't played. They haven't played together yet. So, but yeah, they're both really impressive players that I think will have great careers. So Clemson looking up again in terms of their wide receiver U status.
Yeah, I agree. Antonio Williams is a stud. He's, they're already looking for him on third downs. He's electric, breaking big plays. He had that big touchdown against Florida State. He was wide open for what should have been another huge touchdown against Florida State, but DJU failed to get the ball off in time. But he's, creating separation. He's wreaking havoc back there. He's a force. I love Antonio Williams. It's interesting that, kind of typical Devy move, I think, where we're in this meat of where we'd rather have the upside of these freshman guys over, some of these the next tier of people who, we've seen produce for 2-3 years. I'm always team upside, and it's fun being in this zone of the rankings where it's Burden, Stewart, Antonio Williams, Barian Brown, just a ton of fun freshmen who have the world in front of them.
Yeah, looking like a strong class. And speaking of ranking the young guys over the slightly more established options, we got Ja'Cory Brooks at our consensus number 15, although it looks like Jake is not a fan. And again, like a guy that's in a little bit up and down, right? We had high hopes for him after his finish for last year, and he could not find the field to start this season, playing behind freshman Kobe Prentice and journeyman-ish Trayshawn Holdman. So why is he back in your top 20, Kyle, or did he never leave?
I think actually he did briefly leave, and I just kind of moved him back up very recently because he's turned into that guy now at Alabama where he's the one who dominates the snap share. I mean, he's played the most snaps against Tennessee. I believe he played the most snaps again last week. He's kind of their do-it-all on the field all the time wide receiver compared to, a Prentice or a Isaiah Bond or somebody who's just filling a role. So obviously that role in a program like Alabama is huge, and I think the talent's there, and he has all the possibilities to prove it in that offense on that stage. So,
and Jake, you do not have him in your top 20. You want to explain yourself?
He hasn't been as impressive as I thought he was going to be coming in as a freshman. We've had a year and a half now, and he's not. I mean, I guess he's seen the field. I haven't looked at the snap shares, but he's got 2 games this year over 5 catches. He's only got 1 over 100 yards. He, didn't do all that much last year. I know it's a crowded wide receiver room, but really no one has stepped up in a super meaningful and valuable way, at least not for college fantasy. And it's disappointing that the Earl, Brooks, and Hall trio is gonna look like it's gonna amount to a goose egg. I had high hopes for all 3 of them, and I hope that things work out for him, but I'm not betting on it and don't have him in my top 20.
Yeah, I will say, cutting up the Tennessee game, Brooks stood out in some areas, right? Made some really nice plays. I think this has kind of been his story. Made some awesome plays, body control, hands, and then had some really ugly drops and had a lot of plays that he just wasn't open on. So let's move on to happier times here. Jalen McMillan finally doing things in college football, which is exciting. And it look like you're super high on him, but Kyle and I each have him at number 16. Kyle, you want to say a word on McMillan?
I'll let Jake explain why he's not ranked here.
I like McMillan fine. This is that tier of productive 3rd and 4th year guys who haven't necessarily been super sexy up until now. I had high hopes for McMillan the last 2 years, but he hasn't done a lot. This year he has looked great, but I don't know if that's big Mike Penix just absolutely killing it or what. I like Adunze a little bit more, but I like them both fine. I have a lot of trouble differentiating between wide receivers in this tier. It's just going to kind of depend on who gets draft capital for me, because I don't like one over another particularly all that much at this point.
Yeah, I feel the same way about McMillan and Odunze, and I do have a slightly higher rank on Odunze, but I'll say there's things that McMillan does that are rare, right? His agility and his ability after the catch definitely looks like an NFL player to me, even if Odunze is a little better fit as the deep guy, the speed guy in that offense. It's about Marvin Mims, the guy that broke out early, but really hasn't overwhelmed us yet. Kyle, you seem pretty high on him.
Yeah, I can be probably a little slower to react than you as we've seen. So, but yeah, I'm a believer in the talent. We're talking about another small guy, of course, which I have some tough times dealing with those, but he's having a pretty good season. He's already matched his reception total from last year, which is something. Only 32 receptions last year, 32 receptions already in 7 games now. That average has come down, but I think that's probably what's a good sign for him. If he's not just playing a role where he's used as a deep threat, and he's used more in the shorter areas of the field in the Jeff Lebby offense with obviously a guy who can't throw it too far at quarterback. So
yeah, and he's always been a guy that jumped out in data scouting too, if not in raw production. Always has had a nice yards per route run and other things like that we like to see. Again, I don't want to go through every one of these guys because we'll be here until next.
I want to bring up a guy because Jake and I both have a wide receiver ranked as our wide receiver 14, each of us somehow. And Eric, you have him at 32. That's Jacob Cowing, now at Arizona, formerly of Texas El Paso.
Yeah, honestly, this is an act of negligence rather than a calculatedly low ranking. Just going through it, they're just the guys that I ranked ahead of him jumped out at me first. But when I got to this, I was like, that seems kind of low on Cowing. I mean, he has been dominant as a G5 guy, and dominant as a Power 5 guy now after being, a world beater as a G5 guy. And I suspect he gets some pretty good draft capital this year. I don't see why he wouldn't, right? And he's still a third-year player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I am too low on him. I got to the end of this list and I was
actually,
like,
I take that back.
Reorganize this now.
Fourth-year player.
Yeah, he's a fourth-year.
Fourth-year.
And doesn't concern you at all? It's just you going with the theory like he would have got drafted last year? Or?
I mean, I don't mind it if you're transferring up to prove it one more year. I think just staying, if he had stayed at UTEP and gone for another year, that would be a red flag. But
what G5
a little bit? I mean,
what G5 player early declares ever at wide receiver? It doesn't really happen. The fact that he's moved up into the Power 5 and is still doing it, to me, gives me all that more confidence. That he's going to be able to do it again in the NFL. I think he's a stud.
Yeah, like I said, I'm too low on him, and I hope he does go high. And someone posted on Twitter this week, and it was a sum of early declares and non-early declares in this draft class and how they've done, and it was counterintuitive. A lot of the guys that were not early declares in this class have been producing in terms of wide receivers, which does not match my normal data set. So, hopefully he'll be another trend bucker there. I think we did plenty on Franklin, Odunze. Any other comments there, guys, or move on?
Keep it rolling.
I'm the only one that ranked Jalin Hyatt at all. And again, that might be me being a little high off cutting up his film. And again, that's the sort of thing I look at and would I really take him over Cowing and maybe not, but certainly think he is going to get drafted at least early day 3, if not day 2. You guys just not think that much of him, or have you just not considered it?
I just want to see him do it with Tillman on the field. It's taken Tillman going down for him. I mean, he's, no denying what an amazing 2 weeks he's had. And, one of them was against the, vaunted Alabama defense, but he's not been that alpha dog his whole career. And Tillman's outproduced him last year and, the very beginning of this year before getting hurt. I want to see him actually be able to dominate with another good receiver, across from him.
Yeah, I think Jalin Hyatt is still a little bit of an enigma, and he might still even be wrapped in a question somehow. I definitely agree with the take of we have to see him do it with Tillman. I mean, the other Tennessee receivers outside of those two they're guys, they're good college players. And I think a few of them will be good NFL players, but those guys are still freshmen and they're not really playing. But my other qualm is I also disagree with the fact that he hasn't been good before this season. He actually had a really good freshman year, like as a true freshman in terms of being a true freshman. Like he pretty much immediately got on the field as a true freshman, was just in a horrible, horrible offense. Jarrett Garantano was playing quarterback. Jeremy Pruitt was running that ship into the ground. But then that brings up the question, where did he go last year? Because he did nothing. Josh Heupel came and apparently just didn't trust him because he lost snaps to guys who were playing, like a converted quarterback was playing above him last year. And I was at a loss for words because I thought for sure that Hyatt was going to take that next step as a sophomore, as a Tennessee fan. And then it was like he wasn't even on the field. Like I would go to games and I'd be like, oh, where's number 11? He's going to make a big play. And then no, not there. Just on the bench. Like what?
Yeah. You definitely have more perspective on it than I would. The thing for me is he's fast, you know,
yeah,
and I don't have any measurables on him, but he was just running by those Alabama cornerbacks and accelerating in a way that they could not keep up with. And for me, NFL scouts are going to see that, and he's going to get drafted. You know, he's going to get drafted.
Do you think he declares this year, or do you think he comes back?
I think he maybe should declare this year. Yeah, you know.
It still depends on this question of what's going to happen when Tillman comes back.
Yeah,
and then after that, it depends on how far can Tennessee go. Like if they beat Georgia, if they beat Georgia and they play in the SEC championship game, and then they, play in a New Year's Six Bowl or the playoff, then that's going to attract so many eyes. And at that point, if he has big games there, it's over. He's going pro.
I mean, so many eyes. What, the NFL teams aren't watching SEC teams until the New Year's Six Bowls? Come on.
I mean, are we really going to watch Tennessee blow the doors off Vanderbilt and South Carolina and Missouri?
I'm sure they all watched him blow the doors off Alabama.
That's true. But he also didn't do it against, LSU and Florida in those earlier games that scouts were at. So
it's true.
Wonder if they changed something with his role in the offense or take more work than we're willing to put in to figure that out. But maybe he's just emerging, I guess we got a couple guys left, maybe worth mentioning quickly. We really got to get through this, but Bo Collins seems like we all kind of like him, right? Well within the 20th, but no one is super high on him. I mean, and that's basically how I feel about him. Touchdown in almost every game this year. You can't ignore that, but otherwise hasn't blown me away with raw numbers or film. Anything important to say on him?
Trending down for me. I liked him a lot last year. I love that he was high school teammates with DJU out in Cali, and he really became the Clemson #1 wide receiver down the stretch last year. But I think it's clear to me that Antonio Williams is more talented. I think that Randall may be more talented. We have to see. And he hasn't really had any huge monster blow up games so far this season. I
think you just.
Sorry about that. He's just right there with everyone else for me right now.
Yeah. Anything, Kyle, or move on?
He's consistently decent.
Yeah, exactly. Probably an NFL player, probably not a round 1 or round 2 player, unless he really does something different next year. And then Isaiah Bond, two of us had him in the top 25, if just barely. He's another guy that I was impressed with cutting this film up. Not an overwhelming amount of work, but man, he toasted Tennessee's cornerbacks a few times, and he got missed on some really big plays. He was one of the only guys in that game that jumped out to me as being special in terms of Alabama wide receivers. Just has a gear that the other guys in Alabama don't right now. Kyle, you had him a little high. You want to say anything about Bond?
I mean, I have him at 25. I'd love to have him higher, honestly. I love Isaiah Bond. He has, almost like Olympic track speed. Like, that man is dangerously fast. And it's not just that he's fast, he's quick. He gets off the line super fast. Now, I discount him toasting Tennessee's corners because that's definitely the worst part of the Tennessee team, and they're not good. But he does have that speed that's just next level and can easily get him into the league. From there, it's all about developing the other talents, but the God-given speed is there.
Got a take, Jake?
I mean, he's yet to get 3 catches in a game. Two is his highest, so I don't know how much toasting he did. He didn't even hit 40 yards.
He's a true freshman, Jake.
I know. He hasn't put up a 0, so that's good. Maybe I want him to do well. That Bama wide receiver room seems wide open for the taking, and I'm just kind of mad at all of them for not, seizing the day. It has happened at some point, but until then, I'm just going to kind of poo-poo all of them and wait for one of them to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, and then you can look at it 2 ways, right? Are they all so good that no one can break out? That ain't usually the case,
They haven't had that problem at Ohio State.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of like we're seeing what we're getting there, right? They're all good players, but none of them has shown themselves to be a superstar as of yet, the next level. So that's it. That was our top 25. Again, we'll post this on Twitter, and we'll post it in the show sheet in the comments after the show is over. So do you guys want to do a little film work? I know we're super overtime. Either you have to go.
I don't think I can budget the film time.
Let's just skip it. I'm fine with that anyways. We got plenty of time. And frankly, I like Jeff being on because he's a little sharper with film than we are. Not that we're dummies. But
I am.
I've watched a lot of film, but I don't have the vocabulary or the eye for.
We can watch the Tennessee-Alabama game again. I don't have anything to add about player skill or anything, but
just random.
Watch the game. Glory.
Dixieland Delight is a song about Tennessee. Stuff like that.
All right, we'll move on to the last couple of recurring segments here. CFB waiver pickups of the week. Jake, you got a few guys. You want to take a lead?
Sure, yeah. You got 2 guys here. Avery Morrow for Colorado State. He's dual eligible wide receiver running back, although he's definitely should be a running back. He's got 3 games in a row over 20 points. He had over 30 points against Hawaii. He's rushed for over 100 yards in 3 games. He looks to be about the only bright spot on that Colorado State offense as things currently stand. Brendan Brady for Texas San Antonio, UTSA Roadrunners. He's got over 20 points in 4 of his last 6 games. He had 112 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns against North Texas. He's, really they had Traylon Smith and I forget who the other guy was coming into the season, who everyone thought were going to be the top dogs in the backfield, but he's really made the most of his opportunity and taken control, and he's the running back to own there.
Yeah, great stuff. Kyle, you got anyone?
No, I was pretty busy, and
no worries.
Honestly, all of my leagues I've run out of transactions, so not scouting the waiver wire too much.
We did that in a lot of them by like week 5 this year. I'm way too fast on the trigger, I think, and the ones that you have limited claims. I had a couple of guys that I took, and these are still owned in even some of my leagues with just open waivers, right? Where really like most guys that are anything are picked up. One was Deneric Prince, and he had a pretty good year last year. He's a running back from Tulane. Was hurt this year. Started the season with a 71-yard, 2-touchdown game. It had 231 yards and a touchdown this weekend. So 2 games, small sample size, but could be someone significant to own. I think last week, did you bring up Colby Young, Kyle? Is that you guy? Colby Young, still out there in some of the leagues. He's a wide receiver. Do you remember what team he's from, Jake?
Colby Young. No, hold on. I should know. I just was looking at this a second ago.
He's a G5 guy, but has been really productive for multiple weeks in a row. I'll let you look that up or not.
Oh, no, he's from the U in Miami.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, someone dropped him in some manners, and he seems to have taken over. I think Restrepo was the guy at the beginning of the season, got hurt. Colby Young seems to be getting the love, particularly now with Jake Garcia maybe continuing to be the starting quarterback there. Might be a thing. And then the other guy that jumped out at me was Xavier White, is still out there in some of my leagues. He's a running back wide receiver from Tech, right? And Tech, yeah. And has had 3 games of over 30 points in a row. So if he's on your waiver and you're competing, you should not leave him out there.
Especially PPR leagues. He's catching a ton of balls.
Yeah, just producing, putting up points. So all of these trades involve me today, apparently. And mine, I do not feel good about this. I'll lead off, and you guys can laugh at me and make me cry. I sold Michael Pittman in a league where I'm really competitive on the college side, and I'm entirely out on the NFL side. And I sold Pittman in the return. And this is one of those, as soon as I pulled the trigger, I was like, it was a little light. I could have got him for more. I got John Mechie, Greg Dulcich, Rome Odunze, who I do love, Marshawn Lloyd, who I do think is an NFL player, and Antonio Williams, who we all agree is great, but I take all the risk. We could look back a year from now, and this could look great for me. I have the sinking feeling that it won't. I mean, I got a lot of outs, but, to add up to a guy that's a top 15 wide receiver, I certainly should have got a first-round pick in there or something. What do you guys think? What would have balanced this out?
Yeah, I think another pick would have been nice, or a better NFL asset than Mechie, but it's not terrible. I like, we love Antonio Williams, clearly have him in the top 15 of all college wide receivers. So, presumably, the hope is that he's going to get drafted high, and, you could be looking at a 1-for-1 replacement of Pittman in a few years, and in that case, you definitely won the trade. But you're right; you hold all the risk, and I'd personally be trying to reflip Marshawn Lloyd while he has value right now. But that's because I'm a Marshawn Lloyd hater, even though he's doing well.
Hater. Yeah, and then the worst part about this is a league that I'm in with really short benches in college, which again is another reason I should have got a pick and less players. And the guys I had to send away because they were the worst players on my team were Taj Brooks and Luke McCaffrey. And if I had played Luke McCaffrey this week, I would have won my matchup. He was in my starting lineup, but I traded him away. And instead I lost by 2 points. So that is extra humiliating.
That hurts.
Jake, you want to talk about the other one?
Yeah, it was a trade with the Devy Doses' very own Eric. I traded away Jared Goff, for Miles Price, Tyron Smith, and a 10th round college pick. I think it's a fair trade. I know you probably think I got the better end of it. I don't think I got any NFL talent back. I think that I've maybe got hopefully some good production throughout this year, and then hopefully possibly another 2 seasons of Tyron Smith. We'll see. Miles Price hasn't really done all that much. I know he's battled injuries, but I'm not ready to anoint him. I'd say he's been a pretty big disappointment based on where he was going in CFF drafts in the preseason. Nice to turn what should possibly be an expiring asset in Goff into something before it's nothing. But at the same time, Goff's actually looked like he's had a pulse this year, and I think he could bounce around a bit, even if if the Lions draft someone high this offseason, I think he could, be that transition quarterback next year to, help with the bridge. But even beyond that, I can see him catching on somewhere and being, a spot starter on a stubborn team who thinks that they have all the other pieces and, don't want to splurge at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
Future Colt, Jared Goff.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Future Indianapolis Colts.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Sad, but likely feasible. Yeah, I mean, I think if he gets another job or two, then it looks really good for me. And I'm with you. I think Tyron Smith and Price are both really talented and have upside, but neither one has proven enough to get drafted yet, although that certainly is within the realm of possibilities, right? That Tyron has a great year next year and comes out. He's certainly fast. He's got the quickness and speed to do things if he can catch the eye of scouts and put it all together.
Maybe he transfers to Arizona next year.
Would you, Kyle, any perspective on either one of these by being a guy that was not involved?
I like the Goff side, honestly, quite a bit. But I lean heavy on NFL assets, just because if Goff keeps playing, he's got 5 years in the tank.
Yeah,
at
feasibly.
Most. And then feasibly, we're talking about Price and Smith, 2.
2, yeah, on one side.
Unless they go, yeah.
Yeah, part of the motivation for me is that I made the mistake of going all college 2 years ago when we did the draft, and my NFL team is disgustingly bad, and there's no end in sight. So I have a very competitive college team. I think I'm number 1 in points by 100 or 200, and adding pieces to help hopefully increase my chances of locking up the ship over there. I think, like I said, my NFL team is nowhere near being able to do anything, and Goff is just sitting there. So whatever.
I think it's important that that's a best ball league too. So adding wide receivers with the capacity for high spike weeks is a smart move.
Yeah, I think my whole roster construction in that league is pretty good. I think for and a lot of people's approach to C2C, they have 10 spots for Devy players who aren't maybe doing much of the spike weeking or the producing on the college side. And for me, from top to bottom, it's all producers. So I think that I'm set up pretty well as far as my team construction goes over there.
I think the added context definitely helps your side out, Jake. I will say that.
Yes, all right. I can sleep tonight, guys.
Yeah, in a vacuum, definitely. Goff,
it helps me of Goff too, right? Because I got Brady and Rodgers at quarterback. I am the antithesis of Jake's team in that league. Probably the one that sold him all my picks, frankly, for NFL picks. And I have an old, hopefully contender team, and I just want to get over the hump.
So there you go. Good trade on both sides. We love to see those.
Yeah. Fair trade. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you both coming on again, as usual. And, please, anyone that's out there listening, please follow Kyle at KL Fantasy, Jake at Devy Jake. Check out Kyle's work on the Undroppables, where he runs the Devy side of things there. And please like and subscribe. We need your support to keep this going. Look for the top 25 wide receivers to drop later today. And, we didn't get to the game film, but there is a lot of new film on the site. Check it out. We got the Tennessee stuff over there. I got some Caleb Williams, and we have some, what's the guy from Washington State that Ward? We got some Cam Ward. So lots of other stuff to look at. Any parting shots from you guys?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having us on. It was a blast. Kyle, you're going down this week in the UND C2C League. Sucker.
I don't lose. I just don't lose.
Your standings say otherwise.
And the Tennessee win has boosted his confidence. All right, guys. I appreciate you all, and we're signing off. We'll see everyone next week, okay? Please like, subscribe, and hit us up on the Twitter.